Welcome everyone to our third installment of the Working Families Party, Meet the California Squad. And I'm really excited to have on today our Hayward City Councilwoman, Aisha Wahab, who is the first Afghani woman ever elected in our country, and is currently serving as a city councilwoman in the city of Hayward, which is in East Bay. Councilwoman, we are so excited to have you on, but more than anything, I'm so excited that you are running for the California State Legislature. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I really believe that this body is one of the most important legislative bodies in the country, passing at least 3 times as many bills as Congress on any given year, and really working on the issues that everyday working Californians care about, whether it's funding for our public schools, to criminal justice reforms, to climate change and healthcare. And yet in Sacramento, we have a body that I don't believe is truly representative of our voters. I think our voters are much more progressive and much more liberal than what we're seeing in Sacramento. In fact, we really have a majority of corporate Democrats who are beholden to our corporate interests more than the working families of California. So I want you to first start off to tell our audience a little bit about who you are and what you do and why you're running.
Definitely. No, well, first off, I just want to thank everybody for inviting me and including me. I really appreciate that. I also think that the Working Families Party made a great decision in having you as their leader for California. So congratulations, Jane.
Thank you.
And, you know, for me, I think some people are familiar with my story, but for those who are not, my parents came as Afghan refugees from Afghanistan, escaping the Russian invasion of Afghanistan and the war there. Sadly, the story is not very different from what we're seeing today and, the refugee crisis in the Ukraine. And for the most part, I was born in New York City. I was, with my family, but my father ended up murdered. And I ended up in the foster care system since, before I could tie my own shoes, to be completely frank. So very, very young. I lived with all types of folks. And, my big joke is, I've lived with so many different families and cultures. I generally know, a lot of people want the same things, right? Whether it was me growing up going to church or me finally being adopted and raised in this district, the desire of opportunity to succeed is still there. It's present in every family. And that is the American dream. That's the California dream. And, my parents who adopted me, they were small business owners, generally tried to reinforce, community service, a hardcore work ethic, and just, a perseverance for me. Those were the values that they kind of taught me. And, with their small business, as so many people do, I worked in their small business every weekend, every summer, every holiday. It was retail. And then the Great Recession took place. When that happened, our business, slowly started to tank. And our home was eventually foreclosed and we were priced out of the Fremont area. I moved to Hayward because Hayward was one of the last cities that you can move to, and decided to run after a number of years there because I felt that, Hayward was changing, but it wasn't changing, to your point, for the people in the right direction, housing being the number one concern. So I ran, became the top vote getter in a citywide election, and really started to change a lot of things in the city of Hayward, expanded rent control from 1,000 units to 10,000 units, increased affordable housing, police reforms, the whole nine, and decided to run. So that's kind of me in a small nutshell, if you will.
So a question I'm asking all of our Working Families Party candidates is, what makes the California legislature sexy to you? Why do you want to run and commute to Sacramento Monday through Thursday and serve your community?
Because, this is an open seat. It's doesn't happen that often. It's like once every decade and a half or so. Right. And the honest truth is, to your point, we don't have people that represent us. The mere fact that we don't have, a single renter in the state Senate. I'd be the only primary renter in the state Senate, right? That right there is shocking to so many of us. And that's why we're having so many housing issues that are not being addressed, right? I think that the state Senate, to your point, makes a lot of decisions that really focus on the issues that we care about, but it's not always talked about in the same way, right? We care about modern family planning. I personally care about modern family planning. It's not just protecting the equal rights of women and so forth, but it's also expanding what that looks like in the 21st century. So I really think that the California legislature, as one of the biggest and most important bodies in the nation, we can do so much more than we are. And I really want to kind of be a catalyst for that and a voice for our community and our district.
So you mentioned a little bit about what you are most proud of accomplishing as an elected in Hayward City Council. What do you think, watching the state legislature from afar, particularly as a local representative of your city, what do you think would have been different in the last 5 years if we had elected a squad?
I think a squad is nice, but we genuinely need to get things completely fulfilled and accomplished, right? We need that policy approved and everyone knows where people stand. Everybody knows where the vote is, and kind of chipping away at some of the problems we see. In the last 5 years, I think if we did have a legitimate squad and, I think housing would be prioritized significantly. In this district, in the Bay Area and metro areas, for the most part, housing is our biggest concern, right? Regardless of what age bracket you're in, what gender you are, or, what's your income, housing has always been the priority. And I don't think we're handling it really well, to be completely frank, right? So I think that would be tackled in a very different way, especially with the COVID crisis and the response to that. And I think also for me, just from a digital standpoint, there were so many gaps we saw in the economic divide. But one of the big gaps we saw even in the Bay was the fact that there was such a big digital divide. How do we reach people? How do we tell them, what's going on, emergency services, so forth, to communities that don't speak English, that, are a little bit older, that how do we get to them, right? And that's a huge concern for me.
So you've now been elected. It's post November 8th, 2022, and you're in Sacramento in December. What are the first 5 bills that you introduce?
I think I don't have the exact bills down, but, the things that I'm interested in is definitely COVID bounce back, right? I want people to secure their homes. I don't want a foreclosure crisis. Right now, we see a lot of the counties are not taking, housing issues right now, but that may change in a couple months, right? And we may see a mass foreclosure crisis. We may see a mass eviction crisis. We may see a lot of things around housing. So that is a huge concern. I also want businesses to kind of be able to bounce back, specifically small mom and pop shops. A lot of our immigrant communities really open up a business because they're kind of hit a ceiling in the corporate world, whether it's because of their education, their language barrier, or whatever. So I really want to focus on small businesses and education. Our education system, we had a lot of trouble. A lot of the school board members have been facing a lot of difficult decisions, and we know how important schools are to families. So those are the 3 areas I think I'd focus on the most, but it may be multiple bills on one item, but that's kind of where I'm at.
Councilwoman, you already know the difficulties of running for office, and you're now in the next big campaign of your career. And as someone who's run for office and has gone through 6 election cycles, I know how strenuous and difficult, challenging running actually is on the day-to-day, right? It's grueling. It can feel defeating. Yes. And there are days that you just want to completely break down, right? Yes. And so, but as you're running, there are things that keep you going day to day. And for me, one of that was just being out in the campaign trail and door knocking and being on the streets and talking to our constituents and our voters. And so I was hoping that you could share with our listeners today, what's some of your favorite door knocking stories or campaign stories of meeting folks in ways that invigorated you and reminded you of why you're actually doing this?
Definitely. There's a couple of stories. One, I remember, so we were running for Hayward City Council and I was at Target. It was like kind of last minute run. What do I need kind of for my snacks and so forth. And I was exhausted. It was late at night. It was probably 11 o'clock at night, something late. and I got a Instagram message, and somebody says, I think I just saw you in the soap aisle of Target. And I was like, okay, a little creepy, but sure. Yes, that was me. Right. I am in Target. They're like, do you mind if I meet you in person? I was like, okay, sure. Right. And met the person. This person is a good friend of mine now, right? We built a relationship through that. They had problems with some of the school education issues, and they are now a sitting Hayward school board member. And I endorse the person, I walk them through it. So it's just, that the community is tied to you, and you can make a huge difference and an impact, and you just have to be open to people. I really love that story. And then, going door to door, I feel like when you are defeated, the actual people really don't see you the way maybe politicos see you, right? I'm a young woman of color. I get knocked on for, being to this, to that, and it's not accurate, right? But it is what it is. And when you go to the voters, they just care that somebody wants to do something, right? That somebody has that passion. So that's always invigorating. And then when I was on council, when we expanded the rent control issue, there was a guy, again, I'm bags with Target coming from my car. I was loading up my car, and this guy says, I can stay in my home with my son and my wife for another couple of years. And you made that happen. So I was very surprised that, that happened. So that was, to your point, very inspiring to me.
It's just a reminder of why we do this work.
Yeah.
And the stories are so important, because I think both in running for office and in serving, you can get lost.
Yeah.
In so many of the different political pressures, but also the fighting and the press and the social media. And it's really grounding for me every time I go door knocking.
Yeah.
And, when I spend time with voters and constituents.
Yeah, I think my Sacramento visits have mostly been via Zoom in the evenings, and phone calls and things like that. So it's been pretty easy. But for the most part, I think that I would be taking the train.
That's awesome. I love trains. I love just being able to sit and do work and make use of that commute time. So, final question before we hit our lightning round.
Okay.
Tell us something most people don't know about your district.
Definitely. Our district is very much very affluent in certain pockets, and extremely, very much some of the people are struggling, right? I think in Hayward, for example, it's a less affluent city compared to the rest of the district. And you see certain pockets. We also cover the unincorporated areas, right, where they have no representation except for a county supervisor or anybody else. So I really think that our district is very unique. It's very diverse. It's extremely diverse. And I will say it is the most populous Senate district in the state of California, with well over 1 million people and over 500,000 voters. So I think that's always shocking. Our district's pretty cool about that. Some interesting facts about it.
All right. So we want to end all of our interviews with a lightning round of quick response questions, and a way also for our listeners to get to know you a little bit more personally. Awesome. So the first question I want to ask is, are you a tea or coffee drinker?
I will say coffee, but if I have enough sugar in the tea, I will drink my tea as well.
Great answer. Are you a morning or a night person?
Definitely a night person.
What song do you canvass or campaign to get energized?
It really depends. I like a heavy, strong beat. It has to have some bass in it. But it really depends, right? It could be from whether it's Tupac, whether it's Cardi B, whether it's Alicia Keys, it's whatever's, kind of the uplifting song for the day, if you will.
What are you binging when you are not campaigning?
I watch Netflix shows at a 1.5. They canceled their two times the speed. So now it's at 1.5, but I will watch, whatever show came out, borderline insomniac. So I'll go through the shows pretty quickly.
All right. Favorite spot to eat in your district?
Definitely. And I'm a big fan of Afghan food. I am ethnically Afghan. I feel like, if I don't have, a kebab and white rice, at a certain point after a week or two, I'm craving it. So Diablo in Fremont for sure.
I actually can't go more than a day and a half without rice or noodles at some point.
You don't feel full without the rice, right? It's part of the Asian culture, right? We've been ingrained in that.
And even if I'm full, I get hangry.
Yes. Yes.
So all of our Bay Area listeners will want to know, do you root for the Giants or the A's?
I actually don't really watch baseball or any sport for that matter, except for like MMA or boxing.
I bet we have a lot of MMA fans amongst our pool, and they'd love to hear some of the MMA
for sure.
And your go-to karaoke song?
So I know at your birthday you had karaoke. I have never really done karaoke, to be honest with you.
If you had to sing a song in public.
I think Gloria Gaynor, I would love to do that song at least once. That to me is the classic, karaoke song. So I Will Survive is going to be my jam.
I love it. I love it. The hardest job you've had?
I'm going to say working for my parents. I think that, they, unlike a normal traditional workplace, they can probably get under your skin. You're, working with siblings, things like that. And you're working 12 hours a day on weekends when, other people can kind of hang out and do stuff. Yeah, it kind of gets annoying when you're young, but I think it taught me a lot. So I think
what were you doing?
Kind of supporting them in their retail business. So, my sister and I would take, the weekends and do what we need to do there. But I think that I would have to say is challenging in its own way. And then city council, I will say, is challenging in its other ways, but more obvious ways, if you will.
Yeah, I was definitely looking at pre-elected life, and my mom had a store as well that I spent a lot of my childhood in the back storage room.
Yeah.
And also just there were customers.
Yeah, 100%. Not only that, it's dark. It's not, you have to do all the lifting, the work, the sweat, all the fun stuff. Yeah.
What do you think it taught you, though, that helps you still today?
I will be honest with you. I know when I got my first union job, I was so supportive of labor movement, just because you don't have to work as many hours, you are, paid, you have your breaks. It was just so much more structured than running your own business with family. I think that's one of the biggest things that I valued afterwards, but I also value the work ethic that entrepreneurs have. It's, you put your all into it. If you mess up, there's nobody else to blame but yourself. So that's a lot of stress and something that you have to be disciplined to motivate yourself. So there's a couple of, good nuggets of life lessons.
And if you had to delete every app on your phone but 3, which ones would you keep?
My Gmail, Reddit, and I would have to say Instagram to a degree, but it is what it is. But Reddit and Google for sure. Yeah.
We want the honest answer. Our assembly member from the south of you, Ashkara, listed, I think, all social media apps. And finally, tell us one thing that you love about our state of California.
This is where everyone comes, everyone kind of mixes and mingles. You are exposed to so much here, whatever industry you like, whatever hobby you have, whatever culture you want to kind of learn more about, it is here, right, in California, let alone just also in the Bay Area, right? So every time I travel, I'm so grateful to come back. It makes me appreciate the state more, the Bay more. The people are just the best out of anybody I can really say. People are so understanding and genuinely care about things. So I really just love the people for the most part.
Thank you so much, Councilwoman. I look forward to calling you Senator after November 8th. Keep working hard for all of us. Please go on and to Aisha Wahab's website, volunteer, donate. The only way that she is going to win is if all of us invest and volunteer in her campaign. And thanks so much for coming on board today.
Definitely. Thank you. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it.